of the rich and famous accused of bribing their kids' way into college.
I don't think these parents thought they were ever going to get caught. It's clear that they kind of thought they were going to get away with it, and it's sort of wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
The U.S. and Canada are the only countries allowing the Boeing 737 MAX 8 airplane to continue flying.
CNN is officially being sued for $275 million.
CNN's tagline is facts first, and what we believe their reporting was in this circumstance was lies first, cover-up second.
In some newly released transcripts, former FBI lawyer Lisa Page says the Justice Department told agents not to charge Hillary Clinton.
This just shows that there's a two-tier system, and Ms. Clinton was treated completely differently than what we ended up seeing President Trump being treated, and that's just wrong.
I appreciate the energy you showed. Save it a little longer. I may need it in a few weeks.
Varsity Blues is the name of the operation that caught a whole bunch of famous folks.
Here's the affidavit. Look at this. More than 200 pages of all of the people, the parents allegedly trying to bribe colleges.
Oh, man.
Fake photos to try to get their kids into college.
Right, to the best colleges. Actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin, among 33 parents charged. Loughlin expected to turn herself in today. She's in Canada right now.
Meanwhile, Todd Pyro is here in the newsroom with the very latest on Operation Varsity Blues.
What a wild story, guys. Like Brian said, Loughlin expected to turn herself in the next few hours. Huffman, appearing in federal court Tuesday, released on bond. The Desperate Housewives star allegedly met with a witness who said he could control an SAT testing center and arrange for someone to proctor her daughter's test and correct it. As for Loughlin, she and her fashion designer husband, Massimo Giannulli, are accused of paying $500,000 in bribes for their daughters to be crew recruits at USC, even though they never rode before. Here's the Full House star talking about her daughter going to college.
I think I'm in complete denial.
Yeah?
I really am, because when I think about it too much, it will make me cry.
Really?
So I got to stop.
A total of 50 people, including 9 coaches and 1 high-ranking athletics administrator, indicted. Big-time schools targeted: Georgetown, Yale, Stanford, the University of Texas, USC, and UCLA. The man at the center, William Singer, pleading guilty to taking $25 million, using some for bribes and pocketing the rest.
Make no mistake, this is not a case where parents were acting in the best interests of their children. This is a case where they flaunted their wealth, sparing no expense, to cheat the system.
And get this, the feds adding the investigation continues. More people could be charged. Back to you.
All right, Todd, thank you very much, because I think it does go back to 2011, and apparently the feds got wind of this when they were doing another undercover operation, and then suddenly they're, wait a minute, people are essentially buying their way into colleges? I mean, let's face it. If you have ever tried to get your kids into a college, you know that you would do anything you could possibly do. But that involves, having them take the test again, or community service, or tutor, or doing a better job with their college essay. Who knew that for $15,000 to $75,000, this was possible?
And for every student who got in through this fraud, a genuinely talented one was denied. And the other thing that bothers me, do these kids, well, they know now, but did these kids know what their parents were doing? What a lesson to teach your kids. We'll lie, we'll take care of it. We have a lot of money, and we'll get you into the school that you want to get into.
If you're one-on-one with a proctor, and that proctor is helping you with your test, I assume the kid's read in. In other cases, they say the kid, according to one of the wiretaps, they talked about the kid not knowing, and Singer saying most of the kids don't know. But I find it fascinating. By the way, it's an ongoing investigation. I don't think there's any way it stops here. As Steve mentioned, 10 months ago, this investigation started when a whistleblower came forward and told the FBI about it, and then they really unwound the whole thing real quickly.
Subpoenas, search warrants, and wiretapping.
Yeah, I thought it was just interesting the way they use non-revenue sports to do it. So you're not putting a kid on a football team and basketball team like Varsity Blues in basketball. You're doing it on the sailing team. You're doing it on the water polo team. You're doing it in the case of Yale at the women's soccer team with a non-athlete, and you're photoshopping faces and bios and stories in. It's unbelievable.
One of the craziest stories was the fact that, and see, I don't think the kids knew what some of their parents were doing, because one of the kids, apparently, he was told by one of the admissions people, okay, you're coming here, you're a pole vaulter. He goes, I'm a pole vaulter? Are you kidding?
Right there, that's it. So they knew at that point.
Apparently, according to the affidavit that Ainsley's got, there was a fellow by the name of Mark Rydell. He's a Harvard graduate. Much of the academic cheating on the test was done by him. He, at the time, was the director of college entrance exam preparation at the IMG Academy down in Florida. And what he would do is he would take the SAT or the ACT in place of the kids, give them the answers they needed, or working with the proctor, they would change the answers so that they would get up to the right score. And apparently they would guarantee, if you're taking the ACT, we can guarantee you'll be something in the 30s. If you want a 36, that's perfect. Or if you're taking the SATs, we could get you up to 1,600 for $75,000.
In a school like Harvard, they have 7 or 8 people on a committee that decide. They read through all the applications and they decide together collectively if someone's going to get in. So that's the way maybe schools are going to have to change their system so that not one person makes the decision and is bribed.
Yeah, I actually did not know the system was like this, but man, it's going to bring new scrutiny to admission policies and maybe level the playing field for the first time. Listen, I think this is as irresponsible as a parent as leaving a toddler in a mall by themselves, because you are
or in
totally
an airport. Did you hear that story?
Yeah, that airport. But I'm just saying to tell a kid, to tell a kid you didn't have to study in high school, you don't really have to worry about getting into college because you got to get through to the best college. I'll take care of you. We'll find a way, and we'll put you in a place you don't belong, in a place you haven't earned. Meanwhile, Olivia, Lori Lofkin's daughter, this girl is already a force as an influencer on the internet. In fact, my kids knew about her ahead of time, and they said, well, look at what she posted after getting into school. Now we know what their mom and maybe their dad did to get him, which their dad did to get him into the school. Listen to what they posted.
I don't know how much of school I'm going to attend, but I'm going to go in and talk to my deans and everyone and hope that I can try and balance it all. But I do want the experience of like game days, partying. I don't really care about school, as you guys all know.
Okay. She wants to party, doesn't care about school.
Yeah, all right. So she appreciates the opportunity.
There's someone who probably didn't get accepted to USC. I think that's the school she goes to.
Yeah.
That would have loved to have the opportunity to be in those classrooms.
All right, more to come on that. Meanwhile, there was a document dumped by the Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee. The House sent out hundreds of pages, and we're learning more about perhaps the deep state at the Department of Justice and at the FBI. Because in this document dump, they admitted that the FBI was ordered, Lisa Page, remember her, the FBI attorney, she admitted the FBI was ordered by the Barack Obama Department of Justice not to consider charging Hillary Clinton for gross negligence in handling intelligence, which is classified. Remember, in an early draft of what James Comey was, he was accusing Hillary Clinton of being grossly negligent. Well, gross negligence can be punished with prison time, but they changed it to extremely careless. And Page testified that there was conversations between the Department of Justice and the FBI about how to get her off the hook, essentially.
Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee, they released transcripts, hundreds of pages of these transcripts from that hearing with the Judiciary Committee. And this is what one of them said, to your point, when she was ordered not to charge Hillary Clinton. She says, we had multiple conversations with the Justice Department about bringing a gross negligence charge. And that's, as I said, the advice that we got from the department was that they did not think that it was constitutionally vague and not sustainable. Then Congressman Ratliff says, when you say advice you got from the department, you're making it sound like it was the department that told you you're not going to charge gross negligence because we're the prosecutors and we're telling you we're not going to. And she says, that's correct.
Oh, my goodness.
And this from Congressman Collins, who actually was on the radio with me and says, in 45 minutes, I'll release more transcripts. If you like last week's, this is Lisa Page Day. So we found out Lisa Page is going to release all this, and it's, you talk about it's about 350 pages. Now, the big question for me was, what's about this insurance policy that we discussed in Andy's office? Andy McCabe doesn't seem to remember in his book tour what they discussed with an insurance policy as relates to the presidency of the United States. Now, if I'm to believe Lisa Lisa Page and what she says, and if I'm understanding the summary in which I read, it is essentially Lisa Page is saying Crossfire Hurricane was an investigation into a possible Russian infiltration into the Trump campaign. They say, being that we didn't think he was going to win, we could take our time. But in the event that you die because you're 40, before you're 40, we have an insurance policy where I guess it's an accelerated investigation into something that they admit in this copy and in this cross-examination they knew very little about.
The scary thing is just the fact that this essentially lays bare. It sounds like there was a deep state. We've heard about that for a while, but think about this. There's this FBI investigation looking into things, but it's the Department of Justice. It's Barack Obama's Department of Justice telling the FBI not to charge her, which, you know, the way the Department of Justice is who decides anyway. It's the FBI that just does the investigating.
Here's Doug Collins.
The president has been unfairly attacked from the moment he was elected in November 2016 on many fronts. And now we're beginning just to see the vast scope of what most of us knew, that Ms. Clinton was treated completely differently than what we ended up seeing President Trump being treated. And that's just wrong. This just shows that there's a two-tier system, and we're going to say we're going to get this out, and we're going to put it in ways that people can easily understand, not a large dump, but we're going to take it methodically as we go, as we get them cleared, and we're going to get them out to the American people.
The big question is, how high up did it go? And that is ultimately what everybody wants to know.
And with that mobile probe, John Roberts reporting yesterday, the word is it's coming out this week. He says, I don't necessarily believe it, but there's a lot of noise about it coming out.
Right.
So maybe we'll get some more answers.
I heard from down in Washington there's a possibility that as soon as Mr. Manafort is sentenced, it could be dropped right then.
Probably adding toner in his copier right now. Jillian did, and she has her scripts ready. Hey, Jillian.
I don't, nope, no scripts. Got
no
nothing.
Scripts? Oh, okay.
It's, you know what, it's all in my brain.
Thank you.
Let's start with this story. A construction worker falls to his death at Disney World overnight. Police say the man fell behind the France Pavilion at Disney's Epcot theme park in Florida, calling it an industrial accident. No one else was hurt. Extreme weather now. Look at that. Devastating tornadoes tear through New Mexico, damaging several homes and buildings. You can see the massive funnel ripping across a field. The system also sweeping across Texas, bringing damaging winds and heavy rain in El Paso. Southwest Airlines forced to cancel all flights out of Denver overnight as that storm now moves north. The Senate is gearing up to vote on blocking President Trump's national emergency declaration. The vote is scheduled for tomorrow. 4 Republicans are set to join 47 Democrats to pass the measure. Trump plans to veto it. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Mike Lee has a new proposal to limit future national emergency declarations. Well, social media lighting up over the way Senator Mitt Romney blows out candles on his Twinkie birthday cake. Watch this.
Look at this. It's never going to work, is it?
Yep, one at a time. People split on the bizarre technique on Twitter. Tony saying, quote, do you also eat Twinkies with a knife and fork? Catherine writing, a lot of people making fun of Mitt Romney for blowing out his candles this way, but everyone should do this during flu season.
I totally agree.
Think about this, you're blowing on a cake.
I know, but by the time you get to the last one, it's like melted wax all over the cake.
Listen, when you get older, it was a great idea when you were 16.
Right.
Hats off to whoever came up with the idea of a Twinkie cake. If you love Twinkies,
right.
Turn it into
fried
a
Twinkies.
I love sponge and I like cake. It's in perfect mix. CNN hit with a $275 million lawsuit by the Covington Catholic student. Remember this?
CNN's tagline is facts first, and what we believe their reporting was in this circumstance was lies first, cover-up second. His character has now been determined by the lies issued by CNN. CNN's tagline is facts first, and what we believe their reporting was in this circumstance was lies first, cover-up second, and facts not yet determined by that organization.
The attorney for the Covington Catholic student at the center of that Capitol Hill confrontation officially filing a $275 million lawsuit against CNN, accusing the network of vicious and direct attacks on Nicholas Sandmann.
All right, Joe Koch is a media reporter with The Hill and WOR radio talk show host. He joins us right now to weigh in. Hey, Joe, right now, what do you think the chances are that this moves forward at a good pace?
I think, Brian, it has a very good chance of moving forward. The number, 275 million, is almost irrelevant. This is about accountability, Brian. People want to see news organizations being held responsible if they knowingly push false information. And I have facts to back this up. Ipsos poll last year, 2018, found that nearly 3/4 of Americans, 72%, believe, quote, it should be easier to sue reporters who knowingly push false information. And look, CNN's a huge news organization. It's got 36 bureaus around the world, nearly 4,000 employees, has more resources than most. So it's hard to believe, for instance, that maybe they didn't have enough folks around to look for other videos that were available besides the one that was initially pushed by an anti-Trump organization that was heavily edited. And look, to Lynn Wood's point, the attorney that's involved here, you know, the desire to hold off to be first instead of accurate, to find the apples from the bananas, separate those, gather facts first, and look for the other videos that were out there. That's the thing here. I think what CNN's, or at least Lynn Wood's challenges is in regards to CNN or the Washington Post is, are there damages to Nicholas Sandmann? In other words, if he's in high school, is there a monetary aspect attached here? And if there isn't, then what are we talking about here? So it'll move forward, but you know, can you prove that he was damaged from a monetary perspective? Maybe future earnings, though, Brian, right? Or college prospects.
Colleges.
Maybe some colleges aren't going to want to allow him to go in.
Hey, Jed, the lawsuit claims that CNN elevated false, heinous accusations of racist conduct against Sandmann and failed to adhere to well-established journalistic standards and ethics. Do you think that these attorneys should continue with these lawsuits? Because first it was the Washington Post with $250 million. This is $275 million. The attorneys saying they're looking very closely at NBC, Associated Press, HBO because of Bill Maher, individuals like Kathy Griffin.
I think you absolutely go forward with these things and see what happens. But I have a feeling that given the public sentiment towards the media right now, at least in the court of public opinion, a lot of Americans, that 3/4 I just talked about, want to see these suits go forward and at least give it a shot.
Yep, put everything out there, lay it to bear. Joe Concha, thanks.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, good to see you.
All right, meanwhile, we have a growing list of countries grounding Boeing jets after the deadly Ethiopia crash, but the FAA will not. Is that the right move?
Plus, the video is pretty crazy. A man runs past firefighters into a burning home. Why would he do that? You got to see what happens next.
Quick headline now, breaking overnight. ISIS is facing a defeat as another 3,000 fighters surrender in Syria. Terrorists waving the white flag as U.S.-backed forces complete a final attack on the last ISIS stronghold in the war-torn nation. The question is, what do we do with these people? And a Georgia woman is charged and accused of supporting ISIS by helping spread kill lists targeting U.S. soldiers and members of the State Department. The Justice Department says Kim An recruited extremists and encouraged them to kill thousands of Americans. She faces up to 20 years in prison. You think so? Now, let's talk Boeing. Steve.
Thanks, Brian. Ethiopian Airlines chief executive saying this morning Boeing should ground all of its 737 MAX 8 jets until they're able to establish that they are absolutely safe to fly. This after the second deadly crash involving those planes in just 5 months that has killed 157 people. 8 of those in the last flight were Americans.
The list keeps growing of countries that are grounding their fleets of the Boeing 737 MAX planes, but the FAA still stands behind their decision that there is no issue to ground the aircraft here in the United States. This calls into question whether the FAA is doing enough. So joining us now is Kyle Bailey, aviation analyst and a pilot and former FAA safety team representative. Kyle, thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. So how many of these do we have here in America, and should we be worried if we're taking one of these planes?
Right now, Southwest has about 34. American Airlines has 24, and you're safe on Delta. They have none right now. The FAA does a very good job what they do, and they strictly look at data and the facts. And they're, as you know, the last major airline crash, large cabin passenger plane on U.S. soil, was shortly after September 11th. That's right. It's an impeccable safety record, with the exception of the Colgan crash, which was a smaller aircraft.
All right, Kyle, as I remember, the first 737 MAX 8 crash involved this new system that they put in it, MCAS, I think is the abbreviation for it. And what happens is, in the plane that crashed 5 months ago, the sensors were damaged, and so the plane didn't know where it was. So the computer was trying to drive the plane with bad equipment.
Yeah, and that final report actually isn't out yet, but it's looking like on this airplane, again, this is just speculation, it's very early. I think the communication between the sensors and the airspeed indicator, which is the pitot tube, and the angle of attack indicator, which basically tells you the climb angle when you're taking off, to prevent a stall. They're communicating. So if the backup system senses an imminent stall, which is the airplane literally will lose lift and part of it will fall out of the sky, a wing will drop and could crash, it will actually do what's called it will push the nose over to increase airspeed. So if that happened, these pilots could have been struggling to pull back on the controls, but you're very low and you have terrain below you.
What about the training that our pilots go through? If our pilots had a problem like that, would they be able to land the plane safely?
You know, here in the U.S., we have the best pilots, the training especially. Pilots from all over the world come to the U.S. for flight training.
The FAA did put out a statement. It reads this: the FAA continues to review extensively all available data and aggregate safety performance from operators and pilots of the Boeing 737 MAX. Thus far, our review shows no systemic performance issues.
All right, so if you had to fly on one of these planes today, would you jump on it?
I myself wouldn't fly on it.
Why?
You wouldn't?
No, I would not fly on the airplane because we just don't know. We have 2 planes that crashed, and there's still uncertainty out there. And, you know, takeoff is one of the most critical part of, you know, after liftoff. But we're going to find, once those black boxes come out, that's the key. I think we're going to have a much clearer picture when those black boxes are analyzed, which should happen in about a day or 2.
And it could be something as simple as a software fix, right?
Exactly. I don't see it if it is that. I mean, this could be a fix that's probably, you know, 2 or 3 months. I don't think it will have a substantial impact on the orders for Boeing.
Okay, this was Boeing's statement. They said safety is Boeing's #1 priority, and we have full confidence in the safety of the 737 MAX. So there you go. And when you're booking your ticket, it tells you what type of plane. So for those of you, many people book their tickets and they don't even know what type of plane they're getting on.
So you'll see 737, you'll see a dash and then another number, like a 7 series, a 6 series. So if you see the upper numbers, like the 8, you pretty much, and there might even be an M designation depending on what airline. But if you see like a 7 series, 6 series or below, you're pretty much safe.
And just out of an abundance of caution, you think American and Southwest will probably consider pulling those airplanes out of service?
Yeah, I mean, if I was the CEO of both those airlines, I think it would be great for public relations to say, hey, as a precaution, we're going to at least wait until those black boxes are analyzed and ground them until then. And then I think Boeing will either be cleared or they won't be cleared.
Why would they even take the risk? Why wouldn't they go ahead and ground them?
You know, it's still a business. There's still people. I mean, you have people traveling for medical reasons, for medical treatment. You know, I think there's more to it, and they trust the FAA. As a pilot, I know how diligent the FAA is. They do a very good job at what they do.
Well, Kyle, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Trying to explain a very complicated situation.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. All right, straight ahead. ICE wanted this illegal immigrant detained 9 separate times, but you know what? It never happened. Now, he's charged with murder. How does this keep happening? We're going to tell you what we know.
Plus, Jay Leno has questions for late-night hosts now. Where's the civility?
Rarely does the President of the United States interrupt primetime television to warn us about a completely made-up thing.
President Trump has been able to remain tan despite the bad winter weather.
Good morning to you. Welcome back. A look at our top headlines this morning. Actress Lori Loughlin expected to turn herself in today, charged in that nationwide college admission scam. Felicity Huffman also charged. FBI agents international airspace. A growing number of U.S. lawmakers are calling for federal regulators to ground the planes, but the FAA says there's no basis for doing so. And no deal. Parliament blocking Theresa May's Brexit deal for a second time. UK's Parliament will vote again today between 2 options, either delay Brexit or let the UK leave the EU without a deal. The UK is scheduled to part ways on March 29th.
All right, other headlines now. Another 3,000 ISIS fighters surrender in Syria overnight. Terrorists waving the white flag as U.S.-backed forces complete a final attack on that last final bastion, that last ISIS stronghold in that war-torn nation. The area has been under constant attack for 3 straight nights, leading to this eventual defeat and surrender. Family and friends will say their final goodbyes today to a sheriff's deputy killed in the line of duty. Deputy Jacob Keltner was gunned down while trying to serve an arrest warrant at a hotel in Illinois. Hundreds showed up at the memorial service yesterday to honor the husband and father of two. His accused killer, Floyd Brown, could face the death penalty. The cameras will be on actor Jussie Smollett when he faces 16 felony charges in court tomorrow. A judge ruling to allow the Empire star's arraignment to be filmed in Chicago. Smollett's legal team welcomes the decision, saying they want the public to see what they call a lack of evidence. Smollett is accused of staging a hate crime and then lying to police and everybody else about it. CNN hit with a whopping $275 million lawsuit. The attorneys for Covington Catholic student Nick Sandman accusing the network of vicious attacks on the 16-year-old, seen, of course, in this viral video.
What CNN's tagline is facts first, and what we believe their reporting was in this circumstance was lies first, cover-up second. They did this without any reasonable investigation. They took something straight off Twitter that had been, in essence, manipulated so that it told one story, and they reported it as the truth.
All right, there's over $500 million being sought over this case now. Sandman's attorneys also suing the Washington Post for $250 million over the paper's coverage of the events at that March for Life in January. Jillian.
An Illinois Democrat is proposing a law to ban Second Amendment sanctuary counties despite being a sanctuary state for illegal immigrants. How is that fair when law-abiding gun owners are the ones protected by the Constitution? Joining me now is former Chicago police officer, and by the way, the only Republican on Chicago's 50-seat city council is Alderman Anthony Napolitano. Thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it. Do you think this has a chance?
Well, you know what? I don't know if it has the chance, and what I think is kind of ridiculous is you have a gentleman sitting here that is a son of an immigrant who was raised in a police family and a military family, raised to obey the laws of the land, and I have to explain to my kids that now the state of Illinois is a sanctuary state for illegal aliens. And at the same time, I have to explain to my kids that the state of Illinois will be going after your sanctuary right, your constitutional right in the Second Amendment to protect yourself and to right to bear arms in a city that has over 18,000 people shot in the last 7 years. Yeah. Is it going to pass? God, I hope not. I mean, how are we supposed to protect ourselves? If you want to go after sanctuary, go after the sanctuary that they're letting criminals out at an accelerated rate, and they're using the sanctuary of our streets as a home now to commit these crimes. I hope this doesn't pass.
Yeah, and apparently organizers of the pro-gun sanctuaries say that they took the idea from the liberals who have created immigration sanctuaries across the U.S. So it kind of seems like tit for tat a little bit.
It absolutely seems like tit for tat, and we are going to suffer. I mean, you look at our numbers, our people shot per year numbers in the city of Chicago. It's staggering, and law-abiding citizens now are going to lose their right to protect their families. I believe it's ridiculous, and it's a pandering move. And like I said, go after the sanctuary of our streets. Don't let these career criminals out not being prosecuted. You know, we have a state's attorney here that's celebrating catch and release. You know what? Go after the sanctuary of our city. Don't let our criminals out like this. I think it's ridiculous.
And let's take a look at some numbers here. State counties declaring gun sanctuary resolutions included in that Illinois 26. As you can see, Washington with 10, New Mexico 25, Oregon with 8. And you talked about a number of times here, twice already, the Chicago murder rate. The most recent one, Chicago has the 10th highest murder rate, which was 653 murders in 2017 alone. What do you think is the answer to what's going on there?
I think the answer is we should be putting more time in the legislation written to keep our career criminals off the street. We have to stop this catch and release system. We have to stop a state's attorney that is celebrating the catch and release. We have criminals that have made the ankle monitoring bracelet a fashion statement now because everybody's being let out of jail. I think put the effort and the time into protecting our city and protecting our law-abiding citizens, and don't go after taking the Second Amendment right away from people. It makes no sense at all. I think it's absolutely a ridiculous movement.
All right, Anthony, we'll certainly be following it, see what happens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, 35 minutes after the hour, they lost smaller races in 2018, so do they have any shot at beating President Trump in 2020? to talk about these two. Our political panel on deck to debate that coming up next.
Rob Lowe taking aim at stars accused of paying big money in bribes to get their kids into college. And social media is loving it. We're going to tell you about it. Devastating tornadoes tear through New Mexico, damaging several homes and buildings. You can see the massive funnel ripping across a field.
Yeah, that's a nice twister there. That system sweeping across Texas, bringing damaging winds and heavy rain in El Paso, Texas. The storm forcing Southwest Airlines to cancel nearly all of their flights out of Denver. Janice, it's that time of the year. We're getting into those powerful storms in the Southwest.
Absolutely. You've got the cold side of this where we're going to get blizzard conditions, and the warm side where we could see the potential for tornadoes again today. This is a big deal. This is actually going to be a strengthening system over the next 12 to 24 hours. We have blizzard warnings in effect for parts of the Rockies up towards the northern plains. That's the red shaded area. Flood advisories, warnings ahead of that, and then winter storm warnings as well behind this system. So it's going to move across the upper Midwest. The tail end of the cold front is what is going to bring us the potential for severe storms, including tornadoes again this afternoon over the Tennessee and Mississippi River Valley. Also large hail, damaging winds with this. Not only today, but through the overnight. There are your wind advisories, wind gusts of 50, 60, 70 miles per hour. So this is going to be a very big damaging system potential as we go through the next couple of days. Several feet of snow is possible. Behind this, we're going to see the potential for heavy rainfall, flash flooding, and the threat for severe storms later on this afternoon. So yes, this is the transitioning springtime system, but we're going to see something called bombogenesis, meaning that the rapid intensification of this low moving into the upper Midwest. Yes, a big deal.
A little bombogenesis.
A little
for you.
bombogenesis.
Morning.
Just pay attention to your local forecast for sure.
Okay.
All
right.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Janice.
You got it.
Former candidate for Georgia Governor Stacey Abrams admitting that a presidential bid is definitely on the table, while former Texas Senate candidate Beto O'Rourke is set to make a big stop in Iowa this weekend. So these two candidates who couldn't win their respective races, are they who the Democrats need to take on President Trump in 2020? Do they have a chance at actually beating the president? Here now to debate that is Democratic strategist Dave Brown and the National Press Secretary for the Trump 2020 campaign, Kayleigh McEnany. Thanks, guys, for coming on this morning. Dave, good morning. We'll start with you. Obviously, these two didn't win their races, but they took on nearly impossible tasks of winning races in very red states. So they must be good and talented in some respects, right?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, they have national profiles because they did what no one thought possible, make Texas and Georgia competitive for Democrats. And if anything, both of those states with demographics, those states are going to become increasingly competitive in 2020. But look, I take issue whenever someone refers to Beto or Stacey Abrams as losers, in the sense that I think the framing of the question is wrong, because it supposes that only Democrats should only run in Democratic states and Republicans should only run in Republican states. I think that the key point here is just because Beto O'Rourke or Stacey Abrams lost in their respective Senate races or gubernatorial races, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be incredibly competitive nationally and have immediate appeal.
Yeah, and Kayleigh, I mean, it's tough to make a governor in Georgia as a Republican nervous. It's tough to make a Republican senator in Texas nervous. These two both did that effectively. What do you say?
Rest assured that Texas and Georgia are not in play in this cycle. President Trump won those states handedly. There's a different candidate on the ballot this time around. It's President Trump. It's the person who went in and not just won red states. He won blue states. He won Wisconsin. He won Michigan, Pennsylvania. States not won since 1984 and 1988. And in fact, he came within 1.5 points of winning Minnesota, a state no Republican has taken since 1972. So they're not up against a conventional Republican here. They're up against the guy who wins in blue states and does what is impossible.
Maybe they should be looking at somebody from, maybe they should be looking, Dave, at somebody from the Rust Belt, the Democrats. Maybe that might be a better investment.
And we absolutely are. I mean, someone like Senator Klobuchar and others absolutely appeal to that demographic. But I just want to be clear to my friend Kayleigh, Donald Trump, were he to run in New York State for a good Lord dog catcher, wouldn't be able to win. And he did lose the popular vote. So I just want to remind everybody that while he won the Electoral College, he couldn't even win a plurality.
We still got an Electoral College, and we can debate that all day. Let's go to the second topic here. We want to talk about entitlements in this country. This is a conversation that drives me crazy. We spend crazy in this country, far more than we bring in, about $1 trillion a year at this point. The president is at least somewhat meekly attempting to go after entitlements, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, also some welfare programs. Is this the right move, Kayleigh, or will this come back to haunt him?
No, President Trump was very clear. He will protect beneficiaries of Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, but let's target our money in a responsible way, balance the budget in 15 years, and invest in people who truly need the investment. His budget does two things. It balances the budget, but it also invests in men and women across this country who need child care and underserved communities. It targets Medicaid to those who need it. So let's be smart with the dollars we spend. Give it to those who are truly in need.
Dave, no other politician has the guts to do something like this, to even touch entitlements. What do you think?
I'm sorry, Rob. I like Kayleigh, but that was just wrong. Look, I served on the Senate Budget Committee. I helped pass a budget in 2013. What Kayleigh just said simply isn't true. This budget would cut $1.5 trillion over a 10-year window to Medicaid and $845 billion in cuts.
Who need it.
In cuts.
Target,
no, Kayleigh,
eliminate
that's
the fraud.
not true.
Target
that's not
to
true
those who
because
need it.
as part of this budget, it would also repeal the ACA. It would hurt people with pre-existing conditions. And most analysts are saying $1.5 trillion in cuts.
Well,
and
the ACA has killed people across this country because it's raised their health care costs. No doubt about that.
Kayleigh, because you want to extend tax cuts, $1.9 trillion in spending over the 10-year window. The way you get there, you got to find the savings somewhere, and you're going to raise Medicare.
And to be fair, the tax cuts have done tremendous benefit to the economy, and our entitlements in this country are simply out of control.
Fiscal year 18, single largest driver of the deficit were the tax cuts.
Yeah, you're right.
So
not true.
We can debate on
No, it's helped middle-class men and women across this country.
This budget is a betrayal of values.
All right, we're going to cut it there. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate both of your perspectives.
Thanks a lot.
Very spirited debate.
That's right.
Time to check in with Steve Doocy to see what's coming up on Fox and Friends. Also, always spirited. Good morning, Steve.
Yes, thank you. Hey, Jillian, when you come to work for Fox and Friends here in 15 minutes, we're not in the regular studio.
I know.
We're someplace else.
You're downstairs.
We're in the place that used to be the Chinese restaurant. Just saying. Back in the day, about 30 years ago. Hey, something Jillian and I talk about a lot is the keto diet. Dr. Oz is going to join us today to talk about the keto diet, and the big question is, will the keto diet kill you?
No.
You got to hear what he has to say.
It's a good thing I'm not doing it anymore.
I know. Listen, Jason Chaffetz is going to join us to talk about the deep state. It sounds like this whole collusion thing is leading now to the fact that perhaps the FBI was working at the behest of the Department of Justice in what to do. Stuart Varney is going to be joining us, David Webb and Tammy Bryce. So we got a busy 3 hours, kicks off 14 and a half minutes from right now, right here on the channel. Everybody trusts for their keto news.
Hey, nobody gets out of here alive, Steve. You know, something's going to kill us all. It might as well be the keto diet.
Thanks for bringing down the room, Rob.
I'm good at that, Steve. That's what I do.
See you soon.
All right.
We're coming right back. That's what you do.
He is in trouble. Jokes flooding social media after Full House star Lori Loughlin and Desperate Housewives star Felicity Huffman are charged in a massive college bribery case.
Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115 here with tons of reaction online.
Yeah, good morning, guys. So the size and scope of this scandal is shocking. The investigation involved 200 agents nationwide and the takedown of some of the nation's wealthiest families. Todd Pyro did a great job of laying out all the details. As for social media, it is filled with memes and jokes today. Somebody tweeting a screen grab of the movie The Fugitive, writing, "Your fugitive's name is Aunt Becky. Go get her." Another person using the name of Felicity Huffman's husband's show against her with a meme saying shameless. And of course, there are a whole bunch of opinions pouring in as well. Donald on Twitter pointing out that there are highly intelligent kids that can't afford to go to college. They do not come from wealthy homes. Deanna also chiming in saying another parenting fail exposed. So much for teaching your child about honesty, perseverance, and ethics. And another person on Twitter, Chrissy, also saying Lori Loughlin and scam do not belong in the same sentence. Aunt Becky would never. Well, she is expected to turn herself in today. Her husband was released on $1 million bond yesterday.
Yeah, and even some in Hollywood going after him. Rob Lowe with a big tweet, right?
Yeah, that's right. So after the scandal broke, he took to Twitter simply saying this.
very proud of my honest, hardworking sons. He did that in response to a tweet from his son talking about how hard he worked to get into college. Well, guess what? He actually deleted that tweet after he was accused of shaming some of the families involved, but he's also seeing some support. Joanne says, good, I'm glad Rob Lowe did that. Another person on Twitter saying they earned it, he should be proud, talking about Rob Lowe's family there, and another with a pun saying low blow.
Hey, he raised good kids. He's allowed to argue about it.
That's right.
Ridiculous.
I agree with you, Rob.
And tons of memes coming out of this.
That's right. Today, a very meme-heavy day, as I said. Somebody photoshopped a photo of Lori Loughlin in an orange jumpsuit, writing, Big House instead of Full House, summer 2019, Netflix. Uh-oh. Another person tweeting this. This all started when Aunt Becky and Uncle Jesse tried to lie to get their twins into that fancy preschool, which is a scene from Full House. And then Michael tweeted a photo of Brie Wesson, jokingly saying she's the only person who can help Huffman, which is a Desperate Housewives reference. So you could see a whole lot of people are joking about this, but I know 50 out there are not laughing about this scandal, guys.
Yeah.
The Twitter Mafia.
Twitter Mafia coming in pretty strong today.
Yeah,
coming hot. Yep.
All right.
Thanks, Carly.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, guys.
53 minutes after the hour, some millennials apparently struggling to make it through the first 90 days of a new job. Your comments pouring in on the so-called young and done generation.
Oh, it can be tough. And not only did this guy jump into an icy lake to save 2 dogs, he did it shirtless. You don't want to miss this whole video.
Welcome back. 5:57. Amazon removes 2 books from its online marketplace that promote autism cures and anti-vaccinations. The books claim children can be cured by ingesting and bathing in potentially toxic bleach, along with taking medicine meant to treat arsenic and lead poisoning. Jeez, autism is a developmental disorder in children. It has no scientific cure.
Millennials struggling to keep their jobs past the 90-day probation period. A new study claims 1 in 3 younger workers will not make it past their first 3 months on the job. The reasons include poor performance, attendance, and being late.
Your comments been pouring in on this one, as we thought. Most of you think it's a sign of entitlement. Rich writes on Facebook, quote, the generation that was given participation trophies for everything, coddled by parents, can't put down their cell phones for 5 minutes, want things handed to them. He jokes, no entitlement at all.
And Jason writes on Instagram, they want $100,000 per year and only work 20 hours per week.
That sounds
We're
pretty good.
millennials, and we work very hard. Time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. First, the good. Watch as a shirtless man jumps into a frozen lake to save 2 dogs. The icy water. He noticed the animals while walking his own dog in New York. He and the dogs are okay.
Yeah, that's fantastic. He just went right in. All right, next the bad. A flight forced to make a U-turn after a mom forgets her baby at the airport.
You are returning back to the gate?
أقول لك معنا one passenger. She left her baby in the terminal.
Pilot turning that Malaysia-bound flight back to Saudi Arabia, where the mom and child were reunited.
I need to read more on that story. All right, and finally, the ugly. Move over floss. There is a new dance craze, and it is taking social media by storm.